This one.
Yep. Now you know it's go. You don't get anything. Yes. Would I like you? No. He might not start it off until it's exactly time.
Hi, Greg. You will need to mute your microphone.
Hey, Damchu. All right. Yeah, she asked me to unmute, so I unmuted myself. And we'll start with something, the prayers.
Sangye chodang soji jonang la shanchu badu dani kapsu chushi jibe sonar jian rola sangye drupara shu Sangye chodang soji jonang la shanchu badu dani kapsu Lagi chushi jibe sonar jian rola sangye drupara shu Sangye chodang soji jonang la chanchu bardu dani tabs. Dagi chushi jibe sonam jian rola. Sangye drupara shu. Ganden la jingun jitu gani raga shusu kundi chunzi. Chuji jebu kunjan lo sangja sedan cheba nende shisu sur. Dungi nangwa sandri bede. Jizon lama jibin zonga jin dalo tebe sonam shinji. Tamba Geshe Geshe Shusu Shishin Jungwa Jayo Kesan Nawe Jengyo Le Shisu Kema Tabi Beje Lamen Zibigo Tonde Jembe Tonde Lasan Mungun Jaya Nazo Meda Tushu Bibi Nasa Mujo Yedun Choden Jangan Shishu Hagi Tome Jene Sawaye Mayin Sumi Hichi Kabar Domba Sumi Nindin Cho Nini Yoga Yingi Jojo Mondo Jula Sumi Chuje Bari Tonjo Jaya Rasha Samba Tabi Yama Jitu Lama Tamba Chilin Sugar Kalan Chenze Jendini Chitan Sambi Jujun Zumala Sabi Chiki Chawa Abdi Lagi Chini Sabi Gewan Dili Tanda Doa Koma Kama Chabar Jujun La Santa Baye Temini Bujun Saji Shu Ang Chuzini Zuni Tawa Tanda Kami Ang Chuzini Kodam Chela Chansi
Whatever non-virtues of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows that have collected from beginning to start, I confess each and every one with fervent regret from my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age and made your freedoms and richnesses meaningful by abandoning the aim of worldly concerns. Saviour, we sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect your holy Guru from the living powers of wisdom and compassion in the sky of the Dharma. Please let fall a rain of profound and extensive Dharma from the receptacle of those to be used exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure sun transverse teachings to shine forever. Saji Bhakishu Meto Rirablik Shikhi Kadi
Sanjay Sindhu Dilwari Dogan
May we meet the teachings of victorious one most undone, who the morality of an eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of the two stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. For the force of having fervently requested in this way, all the beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect Father and sons, and combining into one, enter my crown. White nectar, the color of milk, flows from the opening of the tube of white light, cleansing this spirit, harms, negative karmas, obscurations, their imprints without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. Mime se we che chen chen me si, tri me kem pe wan ho jang pa yang, tu ku ma lu shang se sang we, yan chen kem pe su yen song ka pa, lu san tra pe shan la so wa je. Mime se we che chen chen me si, tri me kem pe wan ho jang pa yang, tu ku ma lu shang se sang we, yan chen kem pe su yen song ka pa, lu san tra pe shan la so wa je. Mime se we che chen chen me si, tri me kem pe wan ho jang pa yang, tu ku ma lu shang se sang we.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Because you some the sumbala sum yimbi to ship to juk to tumungi to lo seja. Jedi law in some stage. Tambula sum chudi pay samba, chudi chimawala in Rikiba. In Sungu source, Tambun Tubi sum the Tubi Chunum Shiba, the Tubi thing the Tobachi, Tubi Tuma in Bapu, Tubi Yang in Deba, Tup Chiba Shi, Tubalet in the Rambashi Laundry Kidney Shiba, Tanshin in Yajun, and the Sudum, and the Tema in Balan, give me one a seven children, thing say, give her the Tene Dami with Tenito, Shirgi Labi, Coanchi with Zavachin, number of song source. Lord Sare.
Lord Samare.
Okay, yeah.
So we're going to go back to the presentation of the Stairs of the Path of Enlightenment according to Lama Tsongkhapa's middling Lamrim. We have covered the first 2 points out of the 4 main points in the Lamrim presentation. So we've looked at the greater of the author, we looked at the greatness of this Dhamma, and now we're going to look at the way to listen and to teach the Stairs of the Path of Enlightenment. So I'm going to present the text on the screen. Where is it? Just have to find it. Just a sec. Yeah. So, explanation of how teaching possessing these 2 greatnesses should be listened to and explained is divided into 3 points: how to listen, how to explain, and generally how to proceed at the end. Beginning with how to listen, there are 3 points: thinking about the advantages of listening to the Dhamma, developing respect for the Dhamma and those who teach the Dhamma, and then the actual way to listen. Beginning with thinking about the advantages of listening to the Dhamma, we first off draw from the verses about listening. Through listening, you come to know the phenomena. Through listening, bad actions are reversed. Through listening, the meaningless is abandoned, and through listening, nirvana is attained. These 4 lines say that in reliance upon listening, and understanding of the points that should be adopted and discarded gradually develops. From this knowledge arises the ethics that reverse wrongdoing. Then, once you have turned away from meaningless pursuits, concentration arises and the mind stays on the virtuous object as long as you wish. Then, through training in wisdom, realizing the suchness that is selflessness, the root of samsara, fetters, the root of samsara's fetters is cut and you attain liberation.
There's some long madam there, Tubi, Chunum Shibar Gur, say that CJ Digi. Tubi Chunum Shibar Gur said, Tambudi, Chitangi, Tangan, Benata, Denusum Tubi, and Sanji Chu, and Yamsun and Sula Soba, and some of that single say, Chitang Church, on Rodos, Tambudi Tubi Chunum Shibar Gur said. The Tubi Digli Dobbs, Tubi Temain, Tubi Yang, they were top said, and then no soon Suzel to Jarvina, and Kodeva, Dindri Ingosers, Beno Tubi Digli Dobbs chess laundi, and Tugi Chudi, and in Piggy, and do it then, do it then, Table Denny, and it's Nijudum Sudum Soba, Lunga Kunjo Domini, and Lunga Megiwani. Doba Chetugres, and it tube Temaimba Bones Longi, and it dodid and the things in the level of so like Labchini, same casa, Kalanamdo Chamchini, and it Temaimba and Judaism, the Tenche Malia, and it was a ponchini, and 어딘지 제도 그랬어. 다 퇴빈 양인 대버 톨세디 응원비되는 원비되는 퇴발할 때는 따지 안 대지마다 주루가 소바리 렘베니리 어딘지가 소비기 에니치 남자디 시곰 발할 때는 다 아니 니무 밤비기 아니 타원 양인 대버 공부토 요레스 어딘지 잘고 와서레스라
We have read through the first section that explains thinking about the advantages of listening to the Dhamma, and it began with a citation from verses about listening. It says, first of all, through listening, you come to know the phenomena. Now, the word for phenomena in Tibetan is the same word for Dhamma, right? So you can say through listening, you can come to know phenomena, or you can say you come to know the Dhamma, you come to understand the Dhamma. So particularly through listening to teachings included within the three Pitakas, the three collection of teachings. From that, you come to understand the Dhamma. So and then you can apply it also individually to each one of the three baskets or the three collections of the teachings. So the three collections of teachings are called the teachings on Vinaya, the teachings on Sutra, and the teachings on Abhidhamma. So, looking at the meaning of this verse, through listening, you come to know the Dhamma, to understand the Dhamma, the three collection of teachings. Beginning with the teachings on Vinaya, through listening to teachings on Vinaya, better actions are reversed. So the subject matter of the teachings on Vinaya is the training in ethical discipline, such as, for example, ethical discipline that abstains from wrongdoings. So through that, you come to overcome or to reverse negative actions. Then the following line says, through listening, the meaningless is abandoned. Now, when you link it up with teachings from the collection of sutras, from the Pitaka of sutras that teaches the training in concentration, through the development of concentration, you put a stop to the wandering of the mind from one conception to the next. And as you put a stop to that rumination of wandering of the mind from one object to the next, you overcome a lot of meaningless or useless discursive conceptions. Then the last line in this verse says, through listening, nirvana is achieved, linking it up with the training in concentration, which is training in wisdom, which is the subject matter of the Pitaka, the basket of Abhidhamma. Through the development of wisdom, such as, for example, wisdom with respect to topics as the 16 aspects of the four truths, such as impermanence, or the two truths, and so forth. You develop an understanding, which you take onto your meditation. And through that, you're able to attend the state of liberation, you can attend the state of nirvana.
Jean de Tsuta Gombale Chagoras, Dinza, that Denusum Chansanji Pena, Chansanji Tuba Chevalea, Chagi Mamuch Gogoras, Ra, Benan Duvid in the Roach, Duvid in the Chansan, Jilia, Tusum Chevalea, and Ravjong Benjilea, Kiekoya, Tuzo, Chagin Chagoras, the did some Shuguiman, did Chagoras, Dinza, any 가서다 딘디 손자 아니 지 베나 지 소소 김에 바랍 종이 지금 임바이나 아니 단도서 참으로 퇴섬 건섬 지하기 아니 가와데 덴바치 샤그요레스로 다치 지구 톤베 아니 삼담바이나 셈바 아니 야 셈딩 가와 깨고에 딘디 차그도스로
So then if you wish to practice pure Dhamma, genuine pure Dhamma, the one that leads you to the state of liberation or the state of omniscience, without studying and reflecting the three Pitakas, the three collection of teachings, it is likely that you will not be able to do that. You'll not be able to attain the state of liberation or omniscience without developing deep knowledge through studying and contemplation of the three collection of teachings. So then there are quite a few things that you need to have in order to develop an overall or total knowledge of the three Pitakas. You need to have quite a few prerequisites in place. Like, for example, beginning with the Pitaka, the collection of Vinaya. Well, the best basis that you can work with is the basis of ordination. And there are quite a few things that can be said with respect to that. We're not going to go into that deeply at the moment. But when you proceed from a state of a householder to homelessness, which means that when you take up ordination, you create the most suitable basis, the best basis in terms of conducive conditions that allow you to study extensively the three Pitakas. So in that sense, you become a fortunate one that is able to study deeply the teachings of the Buddha.
Tadini kerabli chance kanshi tubi yin tegurni lebar kala temban yin gur shirukeshin timu meban gur rangi sheke teni nyori tuba timu mese jumi kumbula sumi ki nyoji chok kundu mombe dachum sunjen tabsu menga tembe tokin chok pomban gyuje megyun zawi neba meba nyange megime nyeba chimbe ponjo pongu chok 장담 뺄땐 떼기 초제이 여름 남자한테는 떼기 초 소기나마 개봉고원 규르스
Looking at the next quotation that is taken from the Garland of Birth Stories, the Jakatamala, it says, "He who through listening fills his mind with faith grows firm, rejoicing in that which is excellent. Wisdom is born and ignorance vanishes. This is well worth paying for with one's own flesh. Listening is the lamp against ignorance, the greatest wealth no robber can carry away. The weapon destroying the enemy, which is confusion, the best of friends giving guidance is in skillful means. Near and dear, if you are poor or not, inoffensive cure against ills of sorrow. The foremost army destroying an army of foes. It is the best fame and treasure and splendor as well. When you meet noble beings, the best of gifts, and in assemblies, it is the delight of the wise."
데다디 된다 조디 아니 다치 퇴비 yin 간식 퇴비 yin 대결이 소니 그러면서 퇴바 야부 지피가 숑 챈델이야 아니 퇴숨 넘니 야부 제바나 아니 오늘 신이 대바토에서야디 공부를 왔어 미지기 레스 라바장게 다가라 이치친 대바이나 그 샘노는 이시지도 용식을 되네요 아니 세밍 이번에 대바세야디 아니 소수기 아니 퇴섬 공숨지 간지 삭제 달숨세 페이지하죠 인디친 제버친 아니 숑루를 잔이 리비 다시 제니온디 뭐니기 세밍 이번에 온디 아니 신 대바토버세야디 용구요레스 다신 대바테버요나 되니 뭐니 아니 셈템부 셈노노야 셈딩비 아니 가와고예요 용구요라스 용구요레스
We read through the quotation from the Jakatamala, the Garland of Birth Stories, which begins with, "He who through listening fills his mind with faith." Now, faith here refers to an informed faith, not just any type of faith, but faith that is born from understanding, from knowledge. Which means that rather than trusting whatever someone else says, and it is possible that just because someone says a particular thing, you tend to follow that with your mind. You have trust or faith in that. But not just sufficing with that, we develop faith through an analytical process that scrutinizes with reasons a particular import of a certain point, just like we were to investigate a nugget of gold in rubbing it, cutting it, melted in fire. Similarly, in order to authenticate a certain position or certain teachings, we analyze it with reasons. And through that, we develop an informed faith. An informed faith brings about mental stability. If you do develop an informed faith, which means that you don't just take somebody else's words to be necessarily correct. After all, no, it's not necessarily that you will ascertain that particular point if you just have faith in another person. If you have checked it for yourself with reasoning, then you can develop an informed faith, which brings about mental stability.
Terepena nganzugi shin tebatoba mena teni kab mambu jilaya da nganzu kanga chigoro sira mi mambu jigi chikchu da ani chuche mena nibodi ani chikpale teche ra chikpalo jo thongche teni chuche meni nalo la ya chik ani jamda cheding thongdi
Chuche min
chuchinging milaya chuchinging ro chuchinging mi yetni ani kunjoda namgyoda dozul like teni ani chudi chomudu something ta chuchina pendomudu something ani lo shimding dindi yungu yoros ro manzo mustu wara da dindi.
Without having an informed faith, it would be really difficult to proceed. There might be some complications or difficulties that you will encounter. Like, for example, without knowing how to distinguish between what is Dhamma and the way that some people practice the Dhamma, you might just encounter a certain display of people, certain things that people do in practicing the Dhamma. They might seem to you to be a bit awkward. And you, without understanding what they're doing, you might be thinking, this is of no use whatsoever. No, this Dhamma is totally useless.
Di karikyo res laundi ta mi namgyula ya chö chingi mi namla ya ramjin tasu yobati ko memugo bares and di samgi pigi and chö korang tola ya and pa jarwa na and mila ke yobati chö tola pa jarwa di and tongdroya di and chö la ya shin teba matu bi ke remado chö ke mares ro manzu chö sengi Savigin and the Sanjamde the Chuzudi Muyu Netsuki Lam Chikredos Muyu Netsuki Lam Digi Mitsun Yotango Remato Mi Muyu Netsun Yotan Sedi Zawin Yomares Muyu Netsurani Kun Yodreski Yomares.
So not knowing how to distinguish between the Dhamma and certain displays, body language of certain ways that people are doing things, we can, or practice the Dhamma, we can, for example, look at someone that kind of practicing it on a kind of a small scale, medium scale, a great scale. You might look at what they do and corresponding to that, develop either very strong idea, middling ideas, or kind of subtle ideas about what the person is doing. And you might develop a coarse or a gross level of misconception with respect to that, or middling one, or a small one. It's not a fault of the Dhamma, it's a fault of not understanding exactly what the Dhamma is. After all, in following the path of the Dhamma, we don't seek to change reality, we seek to change the person who is practicing, which means which seek to change ourselves rather than changing reality. Reality is reality. It's the way that things are. In that sense, it's not that you can change it if this is the way things are. What you can change is the person, is yourself.
There is a nganzu pena chö jan chö le shin teba toba de medi ani chö jinggi de pigi namgyul teni ani chö bogo chona kabu shu cha ani an samjole ya ta chi chö györüm bu shu chö tizu chö chigo orda ine ya gyordro mu da chö chin chö ya samari samsam ro chi o dindi gi samlo di kendi susu sani namju mandam wang legi yore mado shemba khaya mares ro anju yang chi chö gi ani min gyotang gu yore mi gi semgom gyotang se gi tab yakshu di chö re ineya di gi lamsan gyotang tu da madu singin di chö chingi mi sozu gi ani chi namju dang bejön dang an dozu samala ya tögu yoras ro ene nga raw ji gi tab mulusun ji sodang rin ya chi chö jang yor da ineya ani sem ni ngaran sem gyotang madu di ni tetsam shu kya matu bi ro and di and lembar mato chug len shabuji so ni yo maras ti ngarang ha ko tsra
So then we want to develop faith that is born from knowledge and informed faith rather than just observing others and deciding whether the Dhamma is helpful or not. We want to look at the Dhamma itself and develop faith that is born from understanding what the Dhamma is. Otherwise, if you just rely upon what other people do in order to decide whether the Dhamma is helpful or not, you might come across someone that has been doing a particular thing for many years, and just when you look at them, you might think that there's nothing much that has changed in that person, and therefore the Dhamma is useless. So there's no point, there's no benefit in the Dhamma. But we need to not be quick to judge in that way, because first of all, the person's mind is not open to us, so it's not manifest to us. It is something that is hidden to us, and yet sometimes we are kind of quick to judge. So then when we look at, when we look at a certain person and wonder if there is any change that they have undergone in a span of a few years, and if we think that they've stayed the same and therefore there is no point or use in the Dhamma, well, we also need to acknowledge that if we expect changes to occur overnight or quickly, we're having unrealistic expectations, because the ability to apply certain process of transformation depends on, first of all, how smart or intelligent you are in practicing the Dhamma, and also how much effort one puts into the Dhamma practice. So Geshe said, for example, when he looks at his situation, he has studied for 30 odd years, and when he looks at his mind, and his mind is, of course, open to him, he can see his own mind. So not much has happened, not a lot of transformation has occurred in the 30 odd years that he's been doing it. So is it a fault of the Dhamma? Well, I guess I said it's a fault of not actually being diligent enough, not putting a lot of effort into bringing about a transformation. So it's not that it's the fault of the Dhamma, it's actually when you look at the practitioner itself, you might find in what area are they deficient.
The inya ko lo mambu jirin ya divachi enza ani chudi one thani gi yamsin jin baji same thing sortu was the chu korang tolya kyame bada chudi yamsin jin baji ngui gi ba pi ani rigbe lam kazus cheba ina ya chi gi yong gi ani ngui ne dan sin badi ani pen sozo doina so dioresta seming iban yesanda hambacha do yemando kanji di same thing sorgores ro.
And even though Geshe says that his mind hasn't changed to a great degree, yet still from having studied the Dhamma for so many years, Geshe at least finds the Dhamma to be amazing. And it is a heartfelt recognition that the Dhamma is amazing. It is stainless. So claiming that he has come to realize that with a valid cognition is being a bit full on, but still Geshe says that he has developed over the years a great appreciation of the Dhamma.
어디래 딘자 아니 간주 소수기 다 남주다 아니 뉴바시고라다 딘지 만당비 왕기 아니 추추무도 삼데야디 자원이 노르바레스 자원이 노르교레스 디 소수 sabso치고스다 니나노 손라더니 아니 셰르키시 띵무메르기스 계란 가주 쓰기 tö바체도 디 저기 계란에 남주인 거레스 남주 가주 수용와 디 저기 아니 마시비 몸바 좀 두그레스 never cure 두그레스 딘자 다 tö바체바 디 지피기 순간나 마존나 딘딜라에 녀야 예비 리지마나 아니 지디 림발라야 안 계란 지 아니 벤저도 파샤는 계란 류 샤콘 떼고 좋네야 떼리바딘지 떼어바딘지 아니 잘라지 차기 어레스 장기 세게 되는 녀리스
So then we have to be careful in our way of thinking about it when we encounter certain situations, because if you think that there's no point in the Dhamma, there's no meaning or it is useless, it is a mistake. So we need to be careful in the way that we think about it. So again, looking at this quotation from the Garland of Birth Stories, it says, "He who through listening fills his mind with faith grows firm, rejoicing in that which is excellent. Wisdom is born in intelligence, and ignorance, vanishes." Through developing one's wisdom, through becoming intelligent, you come to eliminate, to destroy ignorance bit by bit. And when you see that, you develop that appreciation to the Dhamma. So, of course, you know that wisdom, that intelligence that destroys ignorance cannot be bought in the open market, right? It's not that you can go to the shop and buy wisdom, but when you start to understand what it is that destroys ignorance and you appreciate it to a great degree, you start thinking that even if it's not sold at the shops, had it where it's sold in the shops, not only you would give a lot of money or a big portion of your wealth in order to get it, had you had to cut pieces of your own flesh in order to buy wisdom, you would gladly do that.
아니 지든 잠번 공부기 취기 된도 쏙 동서라 취기 된도 쏙 당고 좀 당고 그랬어. 배는 간주다 먼저 쏙 생기지 싸친 것이 쓰고라니 이내야 단답할 먼저 깨워 참여봐 랑요라 깨워 참여봐 랑만 디 가르포트스나 쏙 참여봐 체여봐디 아니 깨워 참여봐 랑디 포트고라 진짜 먼저 쏙 참여봐 체봐디 아니 라완 체여봐 된다 체여봐 먼저 쏙 가주스 드로여스라 진짜 당간주기 쏙 지기 소디 취기 된 땅토버지 정말 아니 데니 손이 배 아니 만줄이야 캡산 첨부 쇼지라게 여버디 야채 야담바데스 이내 간주다 디기 레니 넘버도 마시디 케벤드 마시디 아니 제투여 말았어.
And as it says in the Jambogombo, as it was said by the protector Maitreya in one of his texts, one should even relinquish their own life, give up their own life for the sake of the Dhamma. So it is so precious, the Dhamma is so precious. If you were, even for the sake of the Dhamma, you would give up your own life. When you start thinking about it, we have taken already countless rebirths, beyond count. And if we've already been through births beyond count, then we've already given up our own life. Our life has been terminated already times beyond count. And we had no control in those occasions. In certain situations, it was also done forcefully. So we've already have done that so many times, right? So when Maitreya says giving up your life for the sake of the Dhamma, well, we've already given up our life countless times. So then, if you then decide to do it in certain situations, even if you're going to give up your life for the sake of the Dhamma, you recognize that there would be a great profit, great advantage in doing so. Of course, often we don't really see the profit or the advantage that we get from that. We don't understand that, but it is certainly of great advantage if you can become so determined that for the sake of the Dhamma, you're willing to even give up your own life.
Terda tuba temu se drami islandi that chibare tanjiti tuba temu se drami kumbula so meke norji chosland zawi nganzo chi nobo chikpede kundu kunju yobayna ya ani chok jamla soba yonya tan nyinga yoros ani tubi gi nordi ani sukang chok jam ya meba ro sendel zamas chimal ya ketu yagi ani nobo ta ani rindan meba chagoras ro 어딘지 dakkundu mumbi dachum chunjayis tadu samchi gore tabzu menga dembi choji choya ani thebadris phongbar gyegya mengyo zawi islam nganzu chi zashi mambu shuji ani thirin zashi imbaina sani dacha doya soba dindipe mambu ingoras kansan zashi rig mambu shuji ani rewa jedang ngonde jeda dindi chi gi tone ani zashi chadewa madobe pi samba namda ki ani zashi di Ninyong Ross, the Medi so didn't Madravana, Nima Tinimoni, choose the thick of Nipeni, and Datage and Roding, Monshi Chagoras, and two big trodi in its own in Maris.
It says this is well worth paying with one's own flesh. Listening is the lamp against ignorance, the greatest wealth no robber can carry away. So not only listening that produces wisdom or intelligence is great wealth, it is beneficial in this life, but it's also something that you can take away with you to future lives, and no one can take it away from you, as the text says. The weapon destroying the enemy, which is confusion, the best of friends giving guidance in skillful means. When it says the best of friends, we have close relationship with others, but we can see in the relationship that we have with others, there is a certain element of instability. Your friends can, in certain situations, easily become an enemy of yours. In a sense that when we look at the close relationship with others, sometimes they're based on certain hopes or expectations for something to be fulfilled in those relationships. So, for example, someone might be drawing closer to you, becoming your friend, because they have a certain wish or expectation to, for a certain need to be met. And when it is not met, we can see based upon a personal experience that the nature of such relationship can change so quickly. Someone being close to you, all of a sudden becoming your friend. All of a sudden becoming your enemy. So then it says, the best of friends giving guidance in skillful means. This is listening. Near and dear, if you're poor or not. Inoffensive cure against ills of sorrow, the foremost army destroying an army of foes.
Terdan never nyangi negi means Tagarero any Manzuming rig Mambushuji, Katsus Kongchena, Mambushuji, Chochi the pen, the Chochi the Nede, Angola pen, the trouble and the trouble pen, Angona, Kanji Shawar, the two big menti, and Lunga Yisum Penguins, Sendela Penguins, Sichima Penguins, Kadina Penguins, and Pinch Chop. Never never young negi men pigi ra pembam bashing mado never chong sekya jom misi wajiris ra.
It says it is an inoffensive cure against ills of sorrow. So when we think of a cure, a treatment, medicine, we have different medicines on the market. Some are expensive, some are cheap. Some are medicine for headache, some are for stomachache. If you take medicine for headache, it can help your headache, but then give you a stomach pain. If you take something for stomach pain, it can cause you a headache, right? So it might help one thing, but then not help another, actually increase the ill or the pain of another thing. With the Dhamma, it's not like that. It is helpful to our body, speech, and mind here and hereafter, in this lifetime as well as future lifetimes.
Renganzu kaddu inaya chawa khandachile yan juguyo ya chawa digi ani chunje penyu ani neba tuso thomatu na ani chawa dele yan jungde kigo marara kigmero tinza dinti ge penyu di sam tubaina to tubaina tene tubachi ya chawa ni ani metsekoran tubachi dego chona pe gaji projema to kanga chieta nebachi ingros.
It is the foremost army destroying an army of foes. It is the best fame and treasure and splendor as well. When you meet noble beings, the best of gifts, and in assemblies, it is the delight of the wise. It also says, after listening, make your practice the essence. You will be released from the stronghold of birth with ease. Keep thinking again and again about these and other advantages of listening and generate belief from the bottom of your heart. So, such are the benefits of the act of listening or studying the Dhamma. So if you see the benefits of a particular activity, you'd be inclined to take it up. So in any given situation, in the way that we act, we need to look at the profit or the loss, the benefit or the harm. Particularly here, in terms of listening to the Dhamma, studying the Dhamma, if we would come to see the great benefit, the great profit in studying the Dhamma, even if we would have to do it for the time remaining, for the duration of our life, we would do it with a great sense of enthusiasm, with a great sense of delight.
Dinama kaddu yawrunji sajanda mandalaya ani chabe sing shute yutin yang diksha gich suzu pejata kadulaya di ginduna dedi semshu damasn kielaya ngalape pengu yusra pe pengu kaz yawrumchi khongde deina ya chabe dindish sigon manzuta ta logo samsam rochi ingin racha ritsaw keji di mero an ni tanda yawrumchi lamrum chend ma londi 다른 데는 거기 겨울음식이 춘중 갈래야 나 배졌다야야 기계 넘버 수 연전 넘버 수 아니 직배지 다 카도 키온 this 냠낭 is 다 단디 차려야 뒤져 라바이나 배제 거라시 is 쇼기 쇼자 똥 갈들 쇼자 똥이 똥이래야 차베 시디 유코버 딘디어 다가란 송 다가란 두 딘딘난 거레스 로
Then Geshe, when he was doing his studies at Sera Monastery, he had a study desk with a few photos of His Holiness the Dalai Lama taken in different occasions, and none of them His Holiness was depicted still studying the text, even when eating breakfast or lunch or what have you. He was doing that with an open text right in front of him. So Geshe had those photos, framed photos, when he was still doing his studies, and he said that he drew great determination from that. If someone like His Holiness the Dalai Lama still continues to study, to do his reading, then needless to say that we should do it as well. This is how Geshe was kind of sucking himself up, or developing that greatest determination in his studies. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama have also referred to that in a commentary that he gave to a few Lamrim texts. So there is a text that combines different commentaries to the Lamrim that His Holiness gave. It is called in Tibetan Chem, or annotation to the Lamrim, putting different sources together. And His Holiness himself makes the comment that in his years of studies under the guidance of his tutors, he saw them in different occasions traveling around with texts, and still keeping on studying, reading the text in different occasions, even when they had to perform some other tasks. So His Holiness says that also now, looking at how his teachers acted, even now, after so many years, when he has his food, for example, he still continues reading. When he has breakfast, so for example, he always has a text ready in front of him so that he can still continue his study. So we can then draw courage or determination from such sources.
Tanda chen lamrim chen shira se di marich na yawrung ji rangi lamrim da mamushu song yora di su ani tanda sombum denzing su yikto la pa chini ni don chob gi la tep sa ba ther di inji to yemi ha ma so di na.
Now, when Geshe mentioned that text Chem, that annotation to the Lamrim, it's not like there is one that is quite famous. I don't think that it has been translated into English. So there is a famous one. It's not this. There's another one that His Holiness put together, was published in 2018 during many different Lamrim teachings. I think that probably was put together in conjunction with the Lamrim teaching that His Holiness gave. And also that I don't think that it was translated into English. So Madhu, this is for you, baby. Translate it to English.
I don't know the word of what you call in Tibetan, unexpressible.
All right.
Tilda nganzu chechida matuyata the major rose pena nganzu kala chuni and mig down sam down samalo kala tangsha goyaj mundo asra kala chu tsejin zawin ko kat chu de mar sagros ti kawle mig down sam di pi pejale te chabaina ani kepsan ro yauru yadam din nang to asra.
So then when you have your food, it's not that at any given time you have to pay attention to the food eating with all of your senses. It's not that when you've already taken food into your mouth, you still need to observe it with your eyes, or to reach for it with your hands. So once you have food with your mouth, you can still attend your mind and also your eyes to the text.
Terdadni nibani saini bindole chigdu teche kubi chuninkis tela chase kowar michawo chumawala chobar chawan sanji drawa tela dushiki che sombatar sanji dandrawa tela telas singi chila sobi kurteta nyebe chode makuba panshi chansale Himbatan, Chud, Chimawala, Kedusovana, Tarsi, Tenila Kubarchava, Sombatan, Kerab Lejan, Jab de Mavi Tenlam Du, Dupen, Nambaki, Garden Dembi, Mikita, Sikitus, Tonsi, Kuvaki, Sichi Tut, Jab de Tanga, Chimei, Neve Membi, Signishi, Jimdrukete, Chunji, Chesonsus.
Going back to the text, it says, so we've covered the first point that explained the thinking about the advantages of listening to the Dhamma. Let's move on to the second point in that section, developing respect for the Dhamma and those who teach the Dhamma. Second, from the Sutra of Kshitigarbha, listen filled with one-pointed faith and respect, without any mockery nor disrespect for it. Worship the exponents of the Dhamma, producing the notion of them as resembling Buddhas. In accordance with this quotation, you should view them as resembling Buddhas. offer them service and goods with things like lion thrones, worship them with gifts, and give up disrespect. In Bodhisattva levels, the Bodhisattva Bhumi, it says that you should be free from arrogance and towards the Dhamma and those who expound the Dhamma from contempt. And you should respect those too. And in the garland of birth stories, it says, sit on a seat that is very low, fully develop the glory of discipline. Sit with eyes imbued with joy while drinking the nectar of the words. Bow down in respect and concentration with a stainless and pure mentality. As patients hear the doctor's words, respectfully listen to the Dhamma.
Terdata Chunyenbi Tsultrim, Chunyenbi Tsul, Danadu Chunyenbi Godin Carres, Chunyenbi Tsulshibale, Chunyenbi Godin Carres, Dire, Chunyenbi Godin Carresana, Chunyenbi Godin di Mission Laya, Gyunta Tuyada, Mission Takshetayada, Mission Katang, Zawin Maros. And Chunyenbi Godin Zu di Rang Sem Duichet, Rang Semlaya Pemichet, Chunyengi Yuenza. 아니 랑기 셈레야 펭고나 취니엠발을 때니 랑기 셈레 아니 질람 주거나 아니 대구고 거레스 로 대방군주 마들 깨버테 소로 아니 대바디 피게 아니 질람 주사기 시 맞다고 드레스 로 대바메나 아니 직견독다 아니 딘디기 아니 콜론지기 크니 냠바이나 자와 니미 펜도메바디 다 종 가봉가다 참고 gondin 찍바레스 인자 아니 대구고 그래스 먼저 끼언다 대바이나 끼언다 대바이나 수트질에 대바이나 끼언 통과다 가서는 소수 규디 아니 차단 모습 끼언기 빼 진리 공부다 버친 차 대가지기 가발에 때네 끼언 통과레스 왜냐면 미글에 미신 공부지 그 대바이나 세보대 공부 통과를 까보대 공부 통과를 나보대 공부 통과 공부 통과했어. 이 수수 있게를 모두 아주 유기된 있게인데 제가 말아서 딘자와지 송고했어.
Let's look at the next section, which explains the actual way to listen, beginning up with an indication of how to listen in general. Then, when we look at the actual way of listening or studying the Dhamma, first of all, we begin with asking ourselves, what's the purpose of listening to the Dhamma, of studying the Dhamma? For what end? What purpose? We do not study the Dhamma in order to become proficient in criticizing others, not in order to find faults in others, not in order to dig out the faults of others. We do that in order to subdue our own mind. We do that for our own benefit, for our own purpose. And since we are doing it for our own purpose, then we need to have a respectful attitude towards the Dhamma. Through that, faith will arise. And faith is said to be the very foundation of all the good qualities that we will develop. It is like a mother. It is the foundation of all good qualities. So if rather than developing that sense of respect and faith, our motivation would be a negative motivation, there would be no purpose, no result that will be gained with our involvement in the Dhamma. And this is also what is stated, or is said in the great philosophical system, the 5 texts and so forth. So then, inevitably, we do come to see faults in others. It is because our mind is like this lamp that is completely covered, completely enveloped by anger, attachment, ignorance, and so forth, that inevitably, from the viewpoint, from the perspective of those afflictive emotions in our mind, we will come to see faults in others. It's just like wearing tinted glasses. If you wear sunglasses with a tintish, pinkish hue, or with a pinkish hue, you will come to see the world around you as having that pink tint to it, or if it's blue or yellow or purple or what have you, then everything that you're going to view from the point wearing those glasses will be painted by the color of your glasses. Also, when a mind is covered by anger, attachment, and so forth, we will come to see faults in others from the viewpoint of those afflictive states of mind.
제 페낭안주기 대바디 비기 안롱래야 베저 산지기 틀리디 아니 짤규래야 베저는 송여라 그래서 지 카데부지기 시에서 딘디 싸우니니 말했어 페나 산지기 송 나눠래야 준시 롱그 거를 때는 주시면 따바 때문에 도세지 라 진기래비 깔래야 딘디 샤여레스 디 컨트리 고고레스나디 쪼디 아니 비기 도절이야 대바여바이나 아니 산지기 틀리디 아니 간니이나 비기래야 아니 도절은 죽죽죽 대참 싸우니 매버친 아니 네요레스 라 아니 직 사자다 열롱다 직 딘지기 개버 싸우니 매버 도중은 대바여바이나 산지기 틀리디 가두이는 죽죽죽 딘자 아니 대바여바이나 간니이나 균신이 랑기글이야 산지 지금 주고 여바디 에나 롱기 존시 이월에 때니 아니 두지마다와 거여 여나 아니 미치기 피 최세니 아니 산지 지금 들리전 죽적으로 왔어 라
Lungi yoaro. So then it is said that faith is like a ring that enables the enlightened activities of the Buddha to hook you up. Right? So if you have faith, there's something that Buddhas can hook up in order to help you out. So without faith, there would be nothing that the Buddhas would be able to hook up to in order to benefit in order to benefit you. So if you have faith, regardless of where you are or what your status is, it would be an ability of the Buddha to enact their enlightened activities for your end. It is said, for example, in some scriptures that there are those disciples that simply the movement of the wind element is enough to generate in the mind stream the understanding of impermanence, the realization of impermanence. So also similarly, when we look at the development of good qualities that come through teachings of the Buddha, if you have faith, then even slight things or simple things would afford the hooking up of the Buddha's enlightened activities that are enacted for us as sentient beings.
산지 지금 죽으랬어. this one goes ra
Okay. Sainimidod diladun. So the Sumbala Doma. Geshe went up to, again, the Sutra of Kshitigarbha. He said, listen filled with one-pointed faith and respect. Right? Rather than continuing to entertain doubt, listen filled with one-pointed faith and respect.
Listen. Tadini Shevitsore Sumbalani Skin Pamba the ship took them was Tamboni no Kababatan. 네 카보바다 카 겐두세게 메상와다 장두신제 샵돌나 대 차르페게 난도 문저와다 소야 men상에 뱀비 방베 통하는 소비 그거 문저바다 men상에 말로게 난도 미네바 사는 조스 다트즈 베트사 세우슈이게르디 대신도 최치비 차데도 신장 나와를 내가 문제바다 대도 신장 로버 소마 공론 견차발로 소바다 견 대다 매자 님비 뒤수 존이 찍다 된 딱벌 마치바 제발로 소비 냠버린 견나스 최대고 그것이 보면 문결이 대다다 잘고디 대순 님분 졸레 레버 잡디냐나 이글라 존식 제 측순 손신 장살레장 군 시벌 대바다 제직바다 나와룩바다 이익도바다 샘 탐지기 싸움에 님벌 손소스
So we looked at the section of developing respect for the Dhamma and those who teach the Dhamma. Let's move on to the actual way to listen. There are 3 points in that section: indication of how to listen in general, the way in which you need to listen, having related this to your continuum, and how to keep in mind the purpose of attainment. Beginning with indication of how to listen, there are 2 points: giving up the 3 faults of a vessel and relying on the 6 perceptions. Now, the giving up of the 3 faults of a vessel says, first, if a vessel is turned upside down or held facing upwards, but unclean, or clean but with the bottom leaking, then even if rain is made to fall on it by the gods, the rain cannot go in, or even if it goes in, it will be polluted by the dirt and therefore will not fulfill the purpose of being drunk and the like. Or even if it is not spoiled but by dirt, it will not stay but leak out. Then it says, in the same way, there is no great need to hear the Dhamma if you sit in a place where the Dhamma is being explained but do not listen well. Or listen but take it wrong with a faulty motivation and the like. Or if, even in the case these faults are not present, the words and the meaning you grasp at the time of hearing are not consolidated and get lost through forgetfulness and so forth. Therefore, one should be free from these faults. The antidote to these 3 are set forth in the 3 phases in sutras: listen well, intently, and keep in mind. And in the Bodhisattva level, we are taught to listen with a desire to know everything, simple pointedness, attention, and humble mentality, and reflect with full attention.
Career Islam, the Nanzu Nieni, Tada Nieni, the Padron, the Semna Jedrejoras, the Dimimambu Shujlea, the Ingorta, Merigi Piglea, and the Sinji the Jaguar the Inea, D any Yanja Tatu said that to Samalo, Kawu Peros, then Nanzu Chujunkalea, gains the pigeon to the Genchi, and the Gain Digi, Nanzu Sinti Japchumari, Yawi Yensho Sonchi. So in Cindy Jumara, Yapu Jimania by now, and it touched Yigitella Soba, that she sound Shabatan, and typically Yapu Mania by now, and it's some of them with the Gomada. Yapu Luz Shambala Matamachin, cut to the eye, and Nempo Jinia the D seminally, they were. Manzu temper singing there, Comji Tom, because a same epic doggy, shooting with the only. The commercial church, then the temper de words, the mena de goma that did it.
The section is rather clear. So then looking at the import of this section and applying it to our situation, even if we stay here, we listen to the teachings, or you at home kind of listen to those teachings, it is quite common to live this session of teachings for it to be concluded, and then after a short while to completely forget what was being discussed in class. Right? So in that sense, there is no memory, forgetfulness sinks in. So if this is the type of habit that we develop, there is not a lot of benefit that we'll get with that engagement, will we? So therefore, the instructions that we get here deal with those situations. Geshe remembers that when he was studying, in the early years of studying in a monastery, one of his teachers used to say, don't take notes, right? So even if we take notes, and Geshe says that we sit in class and we take notes, it still happens to us that we leave class and then we forget about what was written in class, what was said in class, sorry. So Geshe says that one of his teachers used to say, don't take notes, just listen. If you take notes, then first of all, you have a divided attention. And also through writing, sometimes your mind gets distracted. You start thinking of other affairs. And he said, if you just sit and listen attentively with sharp attention, stark attention to the teachings, you'll remember them. Now it will penetrate and you will remember them. So for that, we need not only attention, but we need mindfulness so that we'll be able to retain, we'll be able to remember what was stated. So listening to Geshe's accounts of his years in the monastery for us sometimes might sound as a bit harsh. It might sound like a really poor way of living. So sometimes you have to wake up in the morning and go to classes really early in the morning. Particularly when you're young, you tend to get tired. So Geshe remembers in his early years in the monastery, he has fallen asleep in early morning classes. And so you have a few students sitting in class with a teacher, then one of them falls asleep, and if the teacher has a pencil or a pen on the desk or something else, so a mala, they might either throw it on the student or might use the mala in order to smack them, in order to wake them up. For us, it might seem to be a bit harsh. That's Geshe's experience. Sorry? Yeah, Geshe Syrian did it to us, yeah. That's very good, and even better that we haven't ran away. Then the next section speaks of the 6 mental attitudes or recognitions that we develop through listening to teachings. So this section has 6 points: contemplating the perception of oneself as a patient, contemplating the perception of the one expounding the Dhamma as a doctor, generating the perception of the instructions as medicine, generating the perception of persistent practice as the cure, contemplating the perception of the Tathagata as an excellent being, and generating the wish for the Dhamma tradition to last long. So these are the mental attitudes that we develop when we listen to teachings. Now, Geshe says that for someone that has never studied before, not only the Dhamma, but in general has never been to an education system, you might need to explain the type of attitude that you take when you study. But Geshe reckons that since all of us have been to common education systems or normal education systems, there's not a lot of explanation that needs to be given in order to understand, in order to emphasize the importance of the attitude that you take when you are being trained or when you study a certain topic. It seems that for us it's clear. So we will leave the text here for now. In less than 2 hours, His Honesty the Dalai Lama is giving a Chinrezig empowerment. So it will be conducted today and tomorrow, 1:30 Udall time. So we're going to leave this session here for now, just to make sure that we are well prepared, that we have had lunch. So Marcia is saying, hey everyone, those who have donated to CI through direct deposit to a bank account, please drop me an email at finance@chinrezig.com.au so I can send you a receipt. Thank you for your generosity, Marcia. Thank you very much, Marcia, for reminding us to do so. We will just say some dedication prayers to Zhuja Meritap. All right. Chanchu Sencho
Rinpoche Maje Panam Kirti Kewa Nyamdo Meva Mone Kondo Bewa Sho Yududa Lama Sanje Tukuni Joa Chikama Lupa Te Sama Gora Sho Koe Shikandem Pendan Dewa Malu Tuweni Chere Siwan Niti Yansoi Shabe Sinti Bardo Denguro Chi Chanchi Jang Gun Yawe Tenzi Jong Bewe Gun Chosung Ko Wele Mon Yo Soru Shigondo Shanti Sho. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nigel.
Nigel.
Behave yourself, Nigel. Sorry? Damchu. Damchu is here, yeah. The delinquent nun. Sarah.
Kaleshu.
Kaleshu.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias, hermana.
Bendiciones.
¿Qué tal?
Todo bien. Gracias.
Good morning.
Oh,
Hey. Kylie la de 보고 싶어? 보고 싸고 싶어? Hey, Kylie.
Hello. Good morning, Geshe. Good morning, Jackie.
Just a second, we're putting you on the screen. Just a second, we want to see the baby. Da 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 da.
oh,
Youngest student, Geshe.
How are you? I think you're very happy.
So is it now 1 week old? 1 week?
Nearly 2 weeks.
Wow.
2 weeks on Sunday. Yeah.
All right, let's throw a party.
Yeah. We have to go to sleep now.
oh.
So cute.
We can put it in the middle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Prandi.
Nice.
Yeah, we can leave the throne here. Yeah, but just put the screen in the middle. Yeah. We'll put the screen on the throne. All right. Yeah. Cool. All right. See you guys.